Genshin Impact is a popular game that I actually genuinely enjoy. I started around the end of April and I have logged on practically every single day since. This isn't to say that the game doesn't have its problems. I can see why others might not like it, as many aspects can impact the experience. Gameplay, accessibility, story, art style, setting, and character design to name a few. I'm mostly going to be talking about the last bit, character design, because it is a point of interest for me. It ironically isn't one of the most attractive things about the game to me. The best way to describe my feelings towards the character designs of Genshin Impact is indifferent, which is a little misleading because I do care about the character designs and I have thoughts and feelings about the way it's handled, but they don't really do what they're meant to do for me as a consumer. Genshin Impact is a gacha game. The characters are supposed to look cool and flashy so that you want to collect them, and if you want to guarantee having all of them, you have to spend money. So when I say I'm indifferent, I mean that the designs don't really entice me into wanting certain characters. If anything, it is more likely to turn me away from characters I otherwise might really like. The funny thing about character design is that technically, any design can fit any character if you offer an explanation for it. That said, just because there is a justification doesn't make it a good design. Speaking about design in general, the visuals are supposed to speak for themselves. An explanation may give you deeper insight on the choice of visuals, but otherwise you should be able to see that for yourself, even subconsciously. A picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say, and if the picture has absolutely nothing to do with those words, then it's not a very good one. That isn't to say that the character designs of Genshin Impact are done carelessly, but in order to discuss that more thoroughly, let's talk about Noelle. This could turn into a series of redesigning Genshin characters if I wanted, which I could, but considering the ever-increasing cast and the amount of research I'd had to do from the variety of inspirations the visuals draw from, I wouldn't really count on it. This is very much a case of personal taste where Noelle's design is good, I just don't like it. But before I explain why I feel that way, I'll explain why her design works. Noelle is a young woman who wishes to join the Knights of Favonius, the honorable protectors of her home, Mondstadt. She, however, has been unsuccessful in being knighted so far, not because she lacks in strength, capability, or character, but because she's not quite mature enough. Noelle is full of compassion and determination, but those very same traits push her to overwork and doubt herself. If Noelle were knighted today, she would push herself beyond her limits, making her prone to disappointing herself and injury. Until she learns to be more self-assured and kinder to herself, she can't take on the full responsibilities of a knight. That said, although not officially among their ranks, she still wants to play her part in assisting them, leading her to dub herself the Maid of the Knights of Favonius. A maid knight. Evidently, that's what her character design is, and every little part of it communicates what I just described. While asymmetry and over-the-top details are design staples in Genshin, they do communicate clever things about Noelle. The asymmetry is a sign that she isn't very secure in her role. Although she's earnestly trying her best, her inexperience can destabilize her. The embellishments and details of her armor shows how highly she views the knights. They're heroic, venerable, and even romantic. The roses aren't a design theme in the knights. That's a personal touch Noelle added. You can learn through her hangout that they're her favorite flower, and are representative to her of her aspirations. Even her weapon of choice is an excellent display of her brute strength and room to improve. Unlike some other Claymore users whose weapon is just a show of raw power, in Noelle it highlights her lack of finesse, especially compared to sword-wielding characters that she looks up to, like Jean, the acting Grand Master of the Knights. For all intents and purposes, Noelle is a perfectly good character design. Unfortunately, I don't really like it. While a lot of Noelle's design and even her character archetype are influenced by a lot of tropes that I'm not particularly fond of, I mostly attribute my distaste with the nature of Genshin as a gacha game. I can feel how much her design is primarily made to make me want to spend money on her. So, just for fun, I decided to do a redesign of Noelle to show how much circumstance, in this case, Noelle primarily being designed as a product to entice people to spend money, influences a design. I'm going to take the exact same concept. I'm not going to change any details of Noelle's personality, and see what comes out. This isn't to rag on Noelle's design or to say that this is an improvement. After all, I just rambled about how good it was for what it is. This is more so a thought experiment. What would Noelle look like if she wasn't first and foremost a product? What if I genuinely had an idea for a character and didn't worry so much about how well she would appeal or sell to a large audience? Basically, what I'm doing to Noelle is making her look more sensible. Sensible isn't always better. Sometimes characters really do benefit from nonsensical, flamboyant, and over-the-top designs. However, Noelle isn't a very flamboyant character, which is why I feel she may benefit from toning things down a little. I tried to keep a lot of design details intact, like the asymmetry, the rose embellishments, and the general cutesy feeling of the character. I can tell that Noelle's current design pulls from more modern iterations of the maid outfit, but because she's an actual working maid, I thought it would be better to model her off of historical Victorian maids. I changed her whole dress so her silhouette would resemble them more closely. I also switched her headpiece for a bonnet, partially because I'm not personally fond of the headbands modern maid outfits utilize, but also to better communicate a sense of practicality. As for her armor, I just modeled them off of the existing Knights of Avonius NPCs we see in-game. I just don't like the boot plate or the heels, because it gives Noelle a sense of maturity that she isn't really meant to have. Overall, I wanted to clarify the materials of her outfit and make it feel more plausible. Her headpiece seems to be made of the same material as her armor. Her sleeves look flimsy, and because of how low-cut her breastplate is, she doesn't seem to be wearing anything underneath it, which looks uncomfortable. If you can't properly determine what a garment is made out of, or how it's being worn, it makes the character wearing it unrelatable, which you don't want with a character like Noelle, who's meant to be approachable and familiar. That concludes my Noelle redesign. Genshin Impact is first and foremost a product, so the choices the developers and designers make are to ultimately prioritize sales. To do that, they'll try to cater their product to the people with the most money, or at the very least, will reliably spend money on them. Unfortunately, those people typically don't care for its value as a creative project. Gradually, throughout the creative process, it will be sanded down, sanitized, and made as inoffensive/attractive as possible. Ultimately, that leads to something very shallow that hurts the ideas behind it. Evidently, as an artist, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about how art has been and is treated throughout human existence, but I won't get into that right now.